Guess what? It has got to be Sunday. Good guess. Um, I would like to tell you about the place where I grew up. And it is the town in northern Germany called Bremen. Bremen is on a river called the Weser, and some of you who have been watching a lot of my videos know that that was one of the places where I used to swim a lot, and I hung out with the lifeguards there on the beach. That's also the place where my father jumped off the bridge and got arrested. However, I'm getting off the theme here. Bremen is about 45 or 50 miles down the river from the North Sea. Bremerhaven is sort of at the seaside. That Bremerhaven was the largest departure point of Europeans emigrating to the US back in the early 1900s. It's like everything started from there, including my Hungarian grandparents who ended up in New York and then later didn't like it. But that's how they ended up being in Bremen when they came back. They settled there. What's unique about Bremen is that it is known for large shipyards, and a lot of big sailboats and yachts have been built in Bremen. One of them was a very famous ship called the SS Bremen, which was the first ship to go from Europe to New York. And I had to look this up. So let's see if Granny can figure out where she wrote this down. It made the maiden voyage. It was a passenger ship that was built by the North German Hapag-Lloyd. And the maiden voyage was in 1858. Back then, the trip from Bremerhaven to New York took 14 days. And it was the first overseas steamship to go across the North Sea to New York. So that was a whoop-de-doo big deal. Hapag-Lloyd has since then built a lot of famous ships. One of them is an icebreaker that has the capacity, I believe, of about 80 passengers. And it is called the Hanseatic. It was also made there. And that is actually a ship that Frank and I went on from Ushuaia. And that was really amazing. It was a very sort of an upscale icebreaker, not how you usually think of icebreakers. There was nothing rustic about it. You know, it was really nice. The other thing that Bremen is known for is that it has a very large car manufacturer, Mercedes. And when I had Mercedes SL 250 or whatever the heck it was, it had been made in Bremen, and I thought that was sort of fun. Bremen is also known for coffee. Since it is so close to the ocean, there were two companies. One, I have to look this up because I don't remember, because I no longer drink German coffee. But Jacobs Coffee was a very large manufacturer of coffee beans, which they imported, obviously. And they have been around for, I don't know exactly how long. I tried to look it up and I couldn't really see anything. And Melita is another company that I'm sure a lot of Americans know from their coffee filters, but they also made coffee. So it's really fun in parts of Bremen. All of a sudden you go, oh wow, this smells good. Somebody's roasting coffee on a grand scale. That's when you're close to either one of these companies, which, you know, that's really fun. There is another thing that's Bremen famous for, and I did not know this. It is a company that was established in 1837, and it is a dog food company called Vitakraft. I've never heard of them, but apparently world famous. Gee, I did not know that. The other thing that is really fun about Bremen, it's obviously old, and there are certain things that are really absolutely gorgeous. let me start with the Gothic Town Hall, which is right in the center of the city, and the architecture is absolutely magnificent. It has this beautiful roof that is obviously copper because it's that beautiful green. And I tried to look up when that thing was built, but you know what? I actually couldn't find it. But it did describe it as an ornate Gothic town hall with a Renaissance facade. And I know that in the upper hall, because I have been there, it has replicas of huge sailboats from, in the olden days, and that's sort of fun. Um, there's also the statue of Roland, which is a big stone figure that I talked about recently, and it symbolizes the freedom of trade. Um, the cathedral is St. Peter's, which has two huge spires, and when you go in it, it's all these steps going up to the big front door. And when you get in, I absolutely love this place. It has this beautiful, huge rosette window, that typical stained glass window. When the light comes through it, it's just absolutely stunning. The other thing that sets Bremen apart is that the oldest part of Bremen is called Im Schnur. And I love this area. It is a very tiny area. It has about 100 little row houses, and there is a little cobblestone street. And in the 50s and 60s, I believe that the Schnur was just really falling apart. And an architect came in and said, okay, we can't do this because this is historic. This stuff was built in medieval times. We need to restore all of this. And that's what happened. So now everything, it looks like a fairy tale book. There are little shops and restaurants. My favorite one is the Katzencafé, the cat cafe. And I actually was lucky enough to go there about 2 years ago with my friend Didi, who was my best friend before I left Germany for good. And what was really spectacular, that I had not talked to him or seen him in many years. I then found out, that he and his wife had moved first to Spain and then to France. And so I actually met his wife right before they moved there, and then we sort of lost touch. But he had moved back to Bremen, and he found me on Facebook, and that's what I think. Facebook is brilliant. He would have never been able to find me. Of course, it also worked out great that I didn't change my name when I got married to Frank. So, but it was really fun. Didi and I went there for coffee in the afternoon and cake. And it's the most charming place. You walk through this little path through these two houses. I mean, you can go like this, and here's this house, here's the other one. And then you come out, and there is this inner courtyard with 2 levels. There are balconies, and there are flowers everywhere, and it was really charming. We had a really, really good time. The other thing is, and I will talk about Didi some other time, because there are all sorts of interesting things that I did that his mother objected to, plus all of their friends, because, quote, I was from the wrong side of the track. We lived in a 400 square foot little house without indoor plumbing. And Didi belonged to one of the very, very upscale families. And those are sort of the kids I ran around with. Anyway, that's a whole other story. What has now happened with the Schnur is wonderful. All these old buildings, like I said, have totally been restored. And it really is fun to go there because, you just go, wow, wait a minute. What's with the door? Because, back then people were not as tall as we are now. So even me, and I'm bordering on, little person, these doors, even I would have to duck to get in. And they are just really, when you look at it, you go, wow, is this for real? It really looks like it came right out of a fairy tale. Close to, this is very close to where the city center of Bremen is. Another area which goes off to the river is called Böttcherstraße. And that was built by, wait a minute, you know what? I looked this up and I can't remember. I cannot remember. Let me see, where did I write this? All of these buildings were done between 1922 and 1931, and they're built in the Expressionist style. The Böttcherstraße is about 340 feet long, and it has two very nice art galleries, and I believe that there may be a cafe. I'm not sure. The last time when I was there, it had a casino, and I went, what? What is this? An intruder. But the architecture is very interesting, and it does have a little tea shop where I used to go and buy this tea made in Ostfriesland, which is northwest of Bremen, and I believe in America it's called East Friesland. And they have a tea called Bunting Grün, and that's just about my favorite tea. I really do like that a lot. The other thing that's noteworthy about Bremen is the rhododendron park. And this was established around, I believe, late 1800s, around 1900. I tried to look that up, and I actually couldn't get any particular dates. But it is one of the largest rhododendron parks in Europe. It has over 1,000 different azaleas and rhododendrons. And some of the rhododendrons, you go, wait a minute, look at this. They're like as big as a 2-story house. It also has a botanical garden next to it, which was established much later. And it has a wonderful cafe in the middle of it. So after you walk and you go, oh my God, I'm tired now, you can always sit down and have a wonderful cup of coffee and a piece of cake, which is something that is very common. Those of you who have been in Europe, you know that's a big deal in all of those countries, whether it's Germany or France or Austria, that gets to be between 4 and 5. It's not having an alcoholic drink, but you sit down and you have coffee and you meet with some of your friends, and you just have a wonderful afternoon. Bremen consequently has a rhododendron club, and I actually tried to join them several years ago because since rhododendrons originated in Nepal, and they are indigenous to Nepal, they were planning a trip to Nepal. And I was gonna go there with them, but unfortunately the circumstances occurred to where I couldn't go. However, that would have been brilliant because a lot of the people that belong to this club, they're extremely knowledgeable about rhododendrons. They don't just have them in their gardens. They actually know about rhododendrons, and that's something right up my alley. I would have really enjoyed that. Outside of that, I believe that at this point, I think the population of Bremen is around 800,000. Of course, it was a lot less when I was there, and because it was such a prominent harbor, the Allies really zeroed in on it, and most of Bremen was just leveled. And it was just very lucky that the Rathaus and the Roland and a lot of the Schnoor area, that none of that got destroyed. And of course, St. Peter's didn't either. So that was very, very lucky. But most of Bremen really, was leveled. I mean, if you're gonna try to put somebody out of commission. And it's a harbor, obviously, you're going to have to bomb the crap out of it. And they did. However, there was one building that was right in the center where the Rathaus is. And then, by the way, that's where my favorite cafe is, that Kaffee Stecker that goes down, into the basement. Unfortunately, 3 sides of the marketplace have all of these old historic buildings, and one of them got damaged quite a bit, but they restored it. But then on one side, every time I go there, I go, okay, Araka, turn around, don't even look over there. To me, it's sad, and I think it's incongruous that this one building that had been destroyed, they put this box. I mean, it looks like a box. You just go, okay, well, you want to just tear that thing down? But, it is what it is. But most of it, it's very charming. It's very ornate. The other big thing, but this is not unique to Bremen. This is all over Germany and definitely Austria. And every December, there is a huge Weihnachtsmarkt, the Christmas fair. And I absolutely adore that. It is so much fun. You smell all these foods that I remember. Oh yeah, it's Christmas, it must be Christmas. And there are all these little booths that look like they're little fairy tale booths, and you can buy all sorts of Christmas presents, things to hang on your Christmas tree, foods that are only available at Christmas time, all the Christmas cookies, but anybody that has something that's man-made or handcrafted, it's available. And one of my favorite booths, but looks more like a house when they put it up, it's always right next to the Rathaus, next to the big church, and that is my absolute most favorite place. It belongs to a woman from the Erzgebirge, which used to be a very poor area of mountains in East Germany. But there were a lot of artists that were carving all sorts of wonderful Christmas ornaments. Among others, those huge, they look like a pyramid, and then you put candles around the bottom, and then it has like these fanned out pieces of wood on the top, and then the whole thing turns around. And those Christmas pyramids, I mean, some of them are like this tall. They're just fabulous. And Käthe Wohlfahrt is the woman who owns that business. And it is just, I walk in there and I go, oh my God, how old am I? Like 10? And the only problem always is that I just really would like to take half of the stuff that they have and bring it with me. She also has a store in a little town in southern Germany that is the Christmas store, and that's open all year round. But whenever I go to the Weihnachtsmarkt, the first thing is I go, okay, here I come, Käthe Wohlfahrt, Käthe Wohlfahrt. And then my next stop is, they make something in Germany only at Christmas time. It's called Schmalzkuchen. And it is like a miniature version of a French beignet. They are tiny, they're about this big, but it's the same kind of dough. And they just throw them, when they're about this big, into the hot oil. And then when they come out, they put them in a paper bag, and they're still warm. That's how you have to eat them. And they have powdered sugar on it. So you get powdered sugar all over yourself. But it is an absolute must. There is no way that I would go to the Weihnachtsmarkt and not have the Schmalzkuchen and potato pancakes. Not necessarily in that order. I usually go for the potato pancakes, and then 3 hours later, when I have frozen myself into something that, shouldn't even be outside, then I go, okay, where's the Glühwein? That's your traditional Christmas drink. It's hot red wine with spices. You can hardly hold the glass, but that's part of the charm. And oh God, you can smell it when it gets close to your nose, and you just sip it. Oh, and you can just you can feel it. There goes my paper. You can feel it just running down like this, and when it gets in your tummy, you just go, oh my God, that's so good. So now I have another sip. And then by the time you're done with that, okay, dessert. Okay, where's the Schmalzkuchen? And I always have this incredibly good time going to a Weihnachtsmarkt in Bremen. I have gone to others. I've gone to one in Lübeck, which is further north, much smaller, very charming. I've been to several in southern Germany, and I've been to one that was totally outrageously cute in Berchtesgaden, which is in the Bavarian Alps, almost in Salzburg. And it was about this big and total fun. And then I went to one that was in a castle, on the grounds of a castle that is between Berchtesgaden, which is in Germany, and Salzburg, which is in Austria. And that was really fun too. But yeah, anytime, if I am in Bremen, I don't need anybody to suggest that, oh, let's go to the Weihnachtsmarkt, because I already have that figured out when I want to go there. And over the years, I've bought a lot of my Christmas decorations there. I think that I have probably brought, I would say somewhere 30 or 35 nutcrackers. That tells you something about me, from the Weihnachtsmarkt in Bremen. And if anybody has seen my pictures, when it's Christmas time, I now have sort of a fun staircase that curves around and goes up to the second floor. And I have managed to accumulate enough that there are nutcrackers on each step going all the way up. I also bought a train over there to put under my tree. And then I thought, oh, well, that was a mistake, because he's got to get plugged in. And because of the difference in electricity, one of them I can't really, run, because when you convert it, the electricity isn't strong enough. So I bought another one here. But anyway, there you go. It does look a little bit like I have a ton of children and about 50 grandchildren after I'm done decorating my house. And thank God now that I'm officially an old lady and I really cannot do a lot of things anymore. I'm very lucky that I have this very, very sweet friend whose name is Lori. She's much younger than I am and much taller and in good shape. So thanks to her, she will climb to the top of my Christmas tree and put stuff up, because I sure as heck couldn't do it. So thank you, Lori. And I want you to know that I am looking at her, because if it weren't for her, my house would never look like a Christmas fairyland ever. So thank you. But it's not Christmas yet, don't worry. I still remember we're far off. But Bremen has a lot of nostalgia from me, because my grandma used to always say, I'm saving up money so we can go to Kaffee Stecker. Oh my God, Kaffee Stecker. So yeah, when I go to Bremen, I go zum Schnorr, to the Katzenkaffee, or I just walk through there. There is a bakery that has something that was very common when I grew up. Now it's almost unheard of. It is not in vogue, and it's called Kaffeebrot. Kaffeebrot are thin slices of white bread that have been, I don't know how they make it, because I've never tried to make it. They bake it with sugar and a little bit of cinnamon, so they're like a crunchy cracker. And oh my God, when my grandma would save up money and she'd say, shall we go get some Kaffeebrot? Ja, Oma. And we would go to a little bakery in Schnorr, and believe it or not, this bakery is still there, and they still have Kaffeebrot. So when I go there, I always buy, like I mentioned earlier, the Bündchen green tea, and I buy Kaffeebrot. It's an absolute must. And of course, I definitely go to Kaffee Stecker. And Kaffee Stecker has a second cafe that is closer to the hotel that I usually stay in. And it's a two-story, a beautiful Victorian house. It's just gorgeous. It's a row house. And I like to go there because the hotel I stay in is just like a 10-minute walk, if that much. And I don't like having breakfast in my hotel. I like to go to Kaffee Stecker, and they have breakfast. So when I come in, which is absolutely hilarious, where I was very surprised when this was happening. I would come in, and the woman that owned it, the family that owns it, she's always behind the counter, and I would come in and she'd say, ach, wie schön, die Dame aus San Francisco. And she would say, oh, how nice, the lady from San Francisco. So she still thinks of me as the lady from San Francisco, which is sweet. I mean, I come there, once or twice a year, and I walk in and she goes, oh, wie schön. And that's really not very German to be that demonstrative. There, especially the Northern Germans, and if any of you are from Northern Germany, don't get all upset about it. You know who you are, and you know how you are, and it's not anything wrong. It's just that, let's put it this way, you're just more reserved. And when you talk to anybody in Bremen, well, that translates into elegant and educated. So there. So you do that and I do this. Maybe that's why I had to move away. Anyway, that's my story about Bremen. So please go on the internet and take a look at it. There's lots of beautiful photographs. Or if you ever feel like going over there, get in touch with me and I can tell you all the fun places that you should go to, all of the fun restaurants, and tell you all the wonderful places to stay at. And some of you who've watched a lot of my stuff, you saw my story about the Park Hotel. And that's like the most beautiful place. Anyway, there you go. I love you, and please subscribe and make a comment, and I will probably see you next Sunday. Thank you. Bye-bye.